Ina Mambo TV na kuleta vitu moto moto, vitu hot cake. Kitu nakuletea hapa ni kitu lazima ujue. Hawa wanaume unaona hapa, hao ndio walikuwa wanatetea Ruto, wanaongea juu ya Ruto, wanajua Ruto kuliko sisi. Na wako Kenya. Na pia si wa Kenya. Unaona hapa. Wako Kenya, si wa Kenya na wanamtetea Ruto. Sababu gani wanamtetea Ruto? Wanamtetea Ruto kwa sababu speech Ruto ambayo aliweka huko France Paris, ambao alikuwa huko. Sasa hiyo amesarudi Kenya. Hawa wanaume wote unaona hapa. Na hata nikiangalia sura zao, watu kata Eastern Africa. Sijui kama wanatoka Eastern Africa, wanatoka wapi. Pia nikiangalia sura zao, si wale wanaishi kwa nchi yao Afrika, wanaishi abroad. Unanifuata? Kama huwa katikati na gani Nigeria, kama huo mwingine na gani Senegal, huo mwingine na gani Eritrea au Ethiopia. Kwa sababu gani? Si wa Kenya. Ndio maana ulipata wanatetea Ruto. Wanatetea mtu amjui. Kwa sababu speech alimake. Sisi Kenya tukuli speech. Atukuli kitu naitwa speech. Sisi tunataka
ayasikia. Is different. Is not what you're saying. You're saying is good, but it's not what you're saying. We are not saying that we continue to have what the taxes France is paying, the taxes Kenya is paying in the current setup. Those are national issues. We need a financial transaction tax at a global level where even countries like Kenya pay. We do not want anything for free. You will pay more eventually because you have a bigger economy. We will pay commensurate to our economy. And we want those resources controlled not by IMF and World Bank. Because IMF and World Bank, you have the final say. We don't have no say. We want another organization of equals, where you have as much say because you pay as much as we do because we also pay. That's the organization we are looking for. And that is why we are saying we need a new financial architecture where governance, where power is not on the hands of a few people. We can agree on the governance of the institution. We can agree on the sharing of power so that all of us have access to resources that go to making sure, number one, renewable energy. We invest in decarbonization. Number two, adaptation, mitigation, smart agriculture. Number three, restoring our planet, restoring our biodiversity, and making sure our carbon sinks work. This is what we are saying, and we would appreciate a little understanding. We want to be, we are talking the normal. If we continue talking the normal, Emmanuel, we will never solve this problem. Things are not going forward, they're going backwards. Tokenism, installment will not solve this problem. We have a much bigger problem than the installment we are discussing here will solve. You're not hearing us.
I will, if I may,
yeah.
I will answer you in 2 words to conclude. No, but
let me just finish one more. When Ajay was saying 1 to 5 or 1 to 1, who is 1 and who is 5? Private sector versus who is 1 and who is 5?
$5 private sector mobilization for every dollar of money that comes in.
5 for private.
Surely, Ajay. How do you persuade the private sector to bring their money for public good? Private sector is driven by profit, my friend. I mean, unless you persuade me otherwise.
So we get a round of
William Ruto, the president of Kenya.
Umesikia? Hiyo speech umesikia ya Ruto. Alikuwa Paris. Hiyo speech ndio umepata mtu kama huyu. Kama hizo picha nimeweka hapo, wanamtetea au wanamsifu au wanasema nini? Wanamsifu kwa hiyo speech. Hizi speech sisi tumekuwa nao nyingi. Hata tunakuwekea zingine, tunaweza kuwekea zingine usikie. Bila alitupromise heaven. Alafu sasa hii anatupea jahannam. Huyu Ruto alitupromise vitu kubwa kubwa. Sasa hapo tuongezea tax. Nyinyi ukokaa huko nje unakula madollars, unakula mapound, alafu unakuja kumtetea hapa. We should protect Ruto. We should do this Ruto. We should do that Ruto. Because mjui. Haya, msikie huyu ni mmoja wao anamsupport, si Mkenya hata. Hajui Kenya iko wapi. Hata hajui Kenya iko kwa map wapi. Ni Africa by color. Lakini wanaishi nje. Sikie.
Must be protected at all costs. All Kenyans across the world, all Africans around the globe, you must stand with William Ruto. This is what we have been asked.
Wewe kwa unataka kusimama na William Ruto. If you want to stand with William Ruto, come in Kenya and stand with him. Come in Kenya and see how this man increased tax everything. Increased tax in foods, increased tax in transport, increased tax in electricity. So you come and live with Ruto and give him that protection we want to give him. You come and we can give you Ruto in free church and add a bonus of Rigathi Gachagua. Musikize, is not a Kenyan, it's an Africa by color, but she's not living in Africa also. She's living in Europe, America, Canada, talking about Africa's leaders.
For so long time to have leaders who will be courageous enough to speak to the Western world, to the world, to address towards all these unfair systems that they were initiated long time before even our country existed. And they're still manipulating, they're still harming us today. And we have no say. We cannot do anything. If you say, then you'll have...
Those leaders, we have them long time ago. We have Muammar Gaddafi. Muammar Gaddafi talk about this. Muammar Gaddafi, the president of Libya, talk about this. It's a billionaire, it's a trillionaire. Talk about this. What do you black Africa do? What do you black people do? Nothing. Nothing. Muammar Gaddafi was killed because talking to unite Africa, talking to have one money, one currency, talking to have one language. But you Africa, you now are talking in YouTube, you are talking in TikTok. In your country, in Africa, no one do protection, nini, maandamano. No one. No one. No one in your country to protect Muammar Gaddafi. No one in Africa. The black people keep quiet when Muammar Gaddafi was killed. Like a cow, like a dog, like a monkey, like animals. No country in Africa protest. No country in Africa protest on killing Muammar Gaddafi. No country in Africa protects moving the white people in Africa for killing Muammar Gaddafi. Now you are come pressing Ruto, the president of Kenya. We only have 8 months in power. Only 8 months. Not a year, only 8 months. Both were stupid. Let continually
backlash. If you oppose, then something will happen. We always wanted to have leaders who will stand still and speak blankly, openly, brutally, the way unfair system is. So now you're finding this new president of Kenya, William Ruto, who is not afraid to stand anywhere to speak everything in his mind. The matter of fact, everything in his heart, things that all of us Africans, we know and we agree about. So I was just watching the video, he was standing there at Eiffel Tower in front of thousands of people, literally standing in front of the world and addressing the issue of the monetary system, the way how it is unfair, especially to our countries. For example, he addressed that. I've seen the interview or the conversation that he was having with the president of France, Emmanuel Macron, looking straight at his eyes and talking about all this system like IMF and World Bank, which has been for so long damaging the economy of Africa. For instance, if today...
While we are talking about Ruto alone, kwani kwa hiyo mkutano hatukukuwa na presidents wote wa Africa? Na if I see all the president of Africa talk well, president of Malawi, president of South Africa, there is this lady called Amiro, sijui something, I don't know, it's in which country, it's a president of which country in Africa, called Miro. Mia Amiro, yeah, it's called Mia Amiro. Talk well. Why you are not talking about them? You are talking about Ruto? Or you are paying? Or you are among people in Kenya ambao living outside of the Kenya? Or you say, oh, Ruto is your tribe? Or Ruto is your neighbor? Come and see what Ruto doing for his people here. We are not Kenya in heaven. We are in hellfire. Everything in Kenya now is increasing. Everything, tax. He taxes everything. He taxes the trouser, t-shirt, everything. Alafu you sitting in America, or sitting in US, or sitting in Canada, or sitting in China, or sitting in Japan, or sitting in somewhere out of Africa, or out of Kenya, pressing Ruto like you are God. You are not pressing your mother, or you are not pressing your father. You are pressing Ruto, somebody you don't know, somebody you never see. Ask us, Kenya. We know Ruto in and out.
If your country decide to do something that it's against what Americans does, what they're gonna do is they're going to devalue your currency. And how do they do that? They use IMF. They use World Bank as well to devalue your currency. I was just talking with one of the delegates from South Sudan, and she was telling me how much IMF and World Bank has been devaluing the value of their money. So right now, they're looking forward to use a completely different system, which even myself, I think Africa, we should not focus on dollar, we should not focus on all this monetary money, but we should focus on the resources we have, like using gold, using diamond, using all these resources that is far way better than the paper money that we're using. So you have this William Ruto who is standing and talking to this guy, say, hey, we need a new system that is fair, the system that all of us will be in the decision making, the system that not only you will detect what we have to do, but the system that both of us will sit on the chair and decide something that will be fair. And he pointed out, he said, not IMF, not World Bank, we need something new that we can both create. Not only that, the same William Ruto has been talking about we need our own currency in Africa. We don't need to depend on dollar. It would be ridiculous. He went to Djibouti and he said it would be ridiculous if, I want to buy something from Djibouti, but I need to use dollar.
Africa, you are very far to have your own currency. You are very far to have your economic to be power. Why? Because Europe colonized Africa. UK colonized Africa. Now new colonize Africa is US. So what do you Africa have? Africa, what are you producing in the world? Africa ni nyinyi unatoa, ambao nyinyi unasema usabiwe kama watu. Hawa wazungu, these white people, were not born with cars, were not born with this technology they have, were not born with this thing you see they have, aeroplane, whatever. These white people are not born with them, with those things. They work hard to reach where they are. Where are you, Africa? Africa, we are stupid. Like our color, Why I say this? Our great grandfathers make fire without firebox. Our great grandfathers make jembes without factory. Where are us Africa now? We sleep. We sleep. We sleep. But white people, see how their grandfather do. They prove those things. Now they have cars, they have aeroplane, they have technology hali ya juu. Nyinyi Afrika ulilala pale, mababu yetu walituacha, tulilala. Hakuna kitu yote tumeprove kutoka our grandfathers. Talking too much, praising people you don't know, like this man here. He's a black people because he's black, but he's not living in Africa. He's living in Europe, living in UK, living in Canada, earning dollars, all earning pounds. Now we want to lecture us about Ruto. Foreign people is now lecturing us about Ruto. Listening to how the foreign people telling us
why
about
do we
Ruto.
use our own currency? So he's speaking basically about African currency, which Muhammad Gaddafi, he was talking about the same thing. This guy's talking about the borders. He actually removed the visa for
Kama miang kidogo. Kama miang alikuwa anasema before Muhammad Gaddafi alikuwa ameongea juu ya hizo vitu. Hatukatai. Ngoja kwanza wewe. Muhammad Gaddafi aliongea hizo vitu. Ni ukweli. Je, nyinyi ulisimama na Muhammad Gaddafi? Wakati alisimama hizo vitu, wewe ulisimama na Muhammad Gaddafi? Wewe ulisimama na Muhammad Gaddafi? Hawakusimama na Muhammad Gaddafi. Afrika waliwacha Muhammad Gaddafi tubeba msalaba yake. Now unajifanya hapo, you have a big mouth to talk about Ruto. You have a big L to praise Ruto. You have a big heart to praise Ruto. Come in Kenya and see what this man doing for us. See mambo talking in TikTok, talking in YouTube, but you know nothing about our Kenya. Haya, listen to another one.
Manipulate your mindset just like they did to Libyans. Kenya. How many times did I call you? 3 times. Do not allow the Western world.
After you call us Kenya 100 times, you call us. It's not making sense. Why you call us 3 times or 100 times? What things you want to tell us about Ruto? You want to lecture us about Ruto? You, a foreigner, want to lecture us about Ruto? You are living in your country, you want to lecture us about Ruto? We live it with him here. We sleep with him here. We see him every day. We hear him every day. So you want to lecture us about Ruto? Okay, let's listen about you.
To manipulate your mindsets to go against your leader. Do not allow the Western world to manipulate your mindsets to go against your president, Williams Ruto.
Point of correction. If you don't know about talking about Western, if you talk about Western, you talk about Europe and America and UK. Those people were the one who put Ruto in the power. So you cannot change. Those Western people cannot tell us to hear anything. Those people were Ruto working for them. Europe, America were the one who put Ruto in the power. If you don't know, so you are praising somebody you don't know. You are talking about somebody you don't know because you see Ruto in YouTube, you see the video of Ruto in TikTok. So that one you are praising him. Please, if you want to praise Ruto, go and research when Ruto campaigning, when Ruto during campaigning, what Ruto promised Kenyans. And come and ask Kenyans. I know you have a friend of Kenyans. Ask him, this Ruto promised Kenyans, what has Ruto have done in 8 months' time in the power? So come and praise him like your Lord. Come and praise him like your God. Come and praise him like your mother. Come and praise him like your child. Come and praise him like your mother. Come and praise him like your wife. Continue. Election is about Ruto.
This man, this president, at the moment, we as Africans all, he is the most important man, the most important African leader we need at the moment. Kenyans, do not allow any Western world to manipulate your mindset just like they did to Libyans. They manipulate the mindset of the Libyans. They went against Muammar Gaddafi. Kenyans, do not allow that to happen to you. This president, we need him as Africans. He is the most important president in Africa at this moment.
Sema you need him. Don't tell us, don't make Western to imprint my mind or my head like they do for the Libya. No, say you love Ruto, you need Ruto. We can give you Ruto free of charge. We can give you Ruto free of charge. We can give you Ruto with a bond also, Gajaga Gachagua. Uchukue wote. So, don't lecture us about Ruto. Don't tell us about Ruto. We know Ruto very well. Sawa the boy, we know Ruto very well. So Ruto, don't tell us that Ruto is the great president of Africa. We have many of them past, like Muammar Gaddafi. The one who have money. The one who buy. You buy for Africa. The first, sectors. He's the one who buy for Africa. Africa ilikuwa natumia ya watu wa nje. So you Africa people, you black people, you leave Muammar Gaddafi alone to fight for own war, to die for own country. Now we want to praise somebody like Ruto. No one in the world know Ruto. Western people don't know Ruto. China don't know Ruto. India don't know Ruto. Because talking too much. What Ruto offer to the world? What Ruto offer to Africa? The one who come first is the first time in the president. In the first month, only 8 months in the power. Now we are pressing him like somebody who have been in power 50 years, 20 years, 1 year. In Africa, your small head. Your head is black like your colors, Africa. You must think big. Where is Muammar Gaddafi?
Kenyans, do not allow the Western world to manipulate your mindset to go against your president, Williams Ruto. Do not believe whatever they will tell you about him. We as Africans, he is the most important president at this moment. He is not afraid of the enemies. He can look at the face of the enemies directly in their faces and speak to them. Please, Kenyans, we beg you, in the name of God, do not allow any Western world, any Western media to manipulate your mind to go against your presidents. We need him. We as Africans, we need him. He is very important to us. We need to protect him, guide him spiritually or whatever. We need to stood up and protect the Kenya President Williams Ruto. One people, one love. Africa must unite. Africa must rise up. We need to stood up together and fought for our liberation. Africa We are one people, one love. Thank you.
What we are saying is different.
So it's another one. Huyu pia ni mwingine ambao anatetea Ruto, ana support mambo ya Ruto, ana support ya Ruto. So ule mwingine amemaliza kuongea. Wakenya, huyu tumsaidie aje? Anaonekana anakufia Ruto, anaonekana anapenda Ruto, anaonekana anateseka juu ya Ruto. Anatoa lecture, anatusomea, anatueleza muhimu ya Ruto. Anatuambia muhimu ya Ruto. Tumsaidiaje? Tumsaidiaje? Anatuambia muhimu ya Ruto. Haya, endelea msikie mwingine pia ndio huyo. Wako wengi kwa TikTok, ma YouTube. Ndio mwingine.
It's not what you're saying. You're saying is good, but it's not what you're saying. We are not saying that we continue to have what the taxes France is paying, the taxes Kenya is paying in the current setup. Those are national issues. We need a financial transaction tax at a global level where even countries like Kenya pay. We do not want anything for free. You will pay more eventually because you have a bigger economy. We will pay commensurate to our economy. And we want those resources controlled not by IMF and World Bank. Because IMF and World Bank, you have the final say. We don't have no say. We want another organization of equals, where you have as much say because you pay, as much as we do because we also pay. That's the organization we are looking for. And that is why we are saying we need a new financial architecture where governance, where power is not on the hands of a few people. We can agree on the governance of the institution. We can agree on the sharing of power so that all of us have access to resources that go to making sure, number one, renewable energy. We invest in decarbonization. Number two, adaptation, mitigation, smart agriculture. Number three, restoring our planet, restoring our biodiversity, and making sure our carbon sinks work. This is what we are saying, and we would appreciate a little understanding. We want to be, we are talking the normal. If we continue talking the normal, Emmanuel, we will.
So unasikia bila anagonga kichwa, bila Ruto anaongea, anafurahia bila anasema hizo point, anasema ai, huyu president iko na support. Ameandika paka hapo, listen to the president Ruto in Paris, anasema destroying Emmanuel Marco. Hao ndo watu kama hao ndo sana wanafanana na Wakale, wanafanana na Kikuyu ambao Ruto waliwaingiza box wakati wa campaign. Walipromisiwa vitu kubwa kubwa, si vitu ndogo ndogo. Paka sasa hizo vitu walipromisiwa ijaonekana. Unanipata? Paka sasa hizo vitu walipromisiwa hajaonekana. So anatindika kichwa bila Ruto is making point. Anatingiza kichwa bila Ruto is making move. Anatingiza kichwa vile Kenya wako na president mzuri. Na ajui huyu jamaa alitupromise nini? Hayo jamaa alikuwa anaongea nini? Huyu jamaa mmoja hapa unasifu hapa. Wewe kujeni Kenya uone vile jamaa iko. Wewe unagani Kenya tuko heaven? Unagani Kenya tunakula? Huyu Muhammad Gaddafi nyinyi mliacha kakufa. Hakuna mtu wake alikuwa ananyala njaa. Hakuna mtu wake alikuwa maskini. Alikuwa anafundisha. Alafu nyinyi hapo unakuja hapa kusifusifu mtu amjui. Unakuja kusifu mtu amjui. Mtu hajamuona. Kwa sababu the big English kwa sababu bila ameandika vitu zake. Hizo vitu nasoma hapo ni vitu ameandikiwa, amekram. Ndio akuja aseme hizo. Tukiongea tu fact, what Kenya will brought in table. Nini Kenya ataleta kwa table? Tukisemekana tufuate bila anasema. Tuongee ukweli. Unatuona hapa. Sisi wa Kenya tumenyama. Kwa nini hujasikia Mkenya yote akimsifu kwa TikTok? Kwa nini hujasikia Mkenya yote akisifu kwa YouTube? Ni mmoja tu, Aden Kibe. Na wote wa Kenya ambao utapata na msifu, si wale wa Kenya wanaishi Kenya. Ni wale wa Kenya wanaishi abroad. Wakenya ambao utafanya na support Ruto kwa YouTube, wanamsifu Ruto kwa YouTube bila aliongea huko Paris, si Wakenya wanaishi Kenya, si Wakenya wanalala Kenya, si Wakenya wanakula Kenya, ni Wakenya ambayo mashida ya Kenya mwashinda wakaenda board, au Wakenya ambao wamekimbia Kenya wakaenda nchi zingine, ambao wataenda huko waanze kumsifu, wataenda huko waanze kumpigia debe, wataenda huko waanze kumuimba wimbo zake. Si Mkenya naishi Kenya. Wewe ndio angalia kwa TikTok, YouTube, Wakenya ambao wanasifu Ruto, Wakenya ambao wanapongeza Ruto, Wakenya ambao wanaunga Ruto mkono kwa mataksi ambao wameongeza. Si Wakenya wanaishi Kenya. Wengine wamekaa nje Europe 20 years. Wengine wamekaa Europe 30 years. Wengine wamekaa Europe, America, kwa wapi, Canada 15 years. Wengine wamekaa 5 years. Wengine wamekaa 3 years. Hawajui chochote inaendelea Kenya. Hao ndio watakuja kumsifu hapo. Wacha tumalize hiyo lecture yake alikuwa anaongea. Tumalize show.
Things are not going forward, they are going backwards. Tokenism, installment will not solve this problem. We have a much bigger problem than the installment we are discussing here will solve. You're not hearing us.
I will, if I may,
Yeah.
I will answer you in 2 words to conclude. No, but
And let me just finish one more. When Ajay was saying 1 to 5 or 1 to 1, who is 1 and who is 5? Private sector versus who is 1 and who is 5?
$5 private sector mobilization for every dollar of money that comes in.
5 for private.
Surely, Ajay. How do you persuade the private sector to bring their money for public good? Private sector is driven by profit, my friend. I mean, unless you persuade me otherwise.
So we're going to run out of time, but there's a whole conversation to be had about what money goes into adaptation versus what goes into mitigation, which part of it the private sector is ready to go for, how they could be investing in renewable energy. There's a whole conversation, which I am relatively confident we will try and address when this group gets going.
at least my objective was 1 for 1. But it's feasible because I think the whole point is if you take the first loss, I agree.
Yes, iko ile nataka kuwekea hapo. Anaita na speech yake sijasikia watu kwa YouTube wameweka. Sijasikia hata South Africa president ameongea strong. Na sijasikia watu wengi wakimsupport au kwa sababu amekaa kwa kiti sana. Sasa wanakuja wana support president ambaye hajakata siku 10. Kwa nini hawa president? Kwa nini waja support hao? Wacha niweke usikia.
We come to Paris today with a heavy heart, but with hope. We come to Paris today not to reinforce the divisions of the past, the orders of the past, but we come to Paris to identify the common humanity that we share and the absolute moral imperative to save our planet and to make it livable. We don't need a lot more words today. And quite honestly, I don't know that I have it in me to give more words. As I speak to you, my country, that of St. Vincent and the Grenadines and others in the Caribbean, in the Eastern Caribbean, are under a tropical storm watch for Tropical Storm Beth, literally. Yesterday, I had to decide whether to stay or to go. It is important that we move to action. Behind Tropical Storm Beth is another system. And hence, this is our new reality. We have heard this morning from Vanessa. We've heard from the economists. We've heard from the president of Niger. And everyone has spoken truth with feeling, with clarity. And Emmanuel, I've left you for last, because privately I call this the How Dare You Summit. How dare you? How dare you upset the order? How dare you step out of your crease and summon us all to this inflection moment that will determine whether we will have the capacity and the will to bring pace and scope to the problem.
Huyu mwanamke aliongea point sana. Nasikii watu wa YouTube wakimsifu. Sikii kama hao wanasifu Ruto hapa kwa msifu. Hata kwa TikTok. Wamsifu. Na aliongea power sana. Alieleza vizuri sana. Na kuna pia president of South Africa. Msikize.
Without the AWS scholarship, I wouldn't have been able to be confident making a product within AI and ML.
So instead of running after one problem and trying to address it.
President Macron, Secretary General, colleague, to leave Paris without understanding that the bolstering of the political ambition that is required must secure
Africa should never be seen as a continent that needs generosity. We want to be treated as equals.
Welcome to the African Leadership
Msikia.
Series.
We are not beggars. Anamwambia
Of the war which has had a negative impact on the African continent, which is the rise in prices. We felt like we were beggars when it came to vaccine availability. When we can trade in these commodities and other issues we can handle in a different way. I wanted to make that point.
in South Africa
it
president.
should be understood
Msikize.
where Africa has evolved up to. We want to be key players on the world stage, want to be key players even in the financial markets and in the MDBs. Now, these are the positive things. I do, Mr. President Macron, want us to address another issue which to us is a bit of a negative. You will have heard President Sisi talking about the 100 billion that was promised in Paris. President Sassou Nguesso yesterday as well also spoke about it at the dinner. Now there is that issue that a number of the commitments that have been made have not really been fully lived up to. But before I get into details, let me immediately say that we recognize the many initiatives that have been put on the table, and a number of countries here have done so. Germany has gone out of the way to put a number of initiatives, and the US has also done a number of things. But there have been times when we felt like we were beggars. I played a key role as chair of the African Union during the COVID period. We felt like we were beggars when it came to vaccine availability, when we felt we needed access to vaccines, and the Northern Hemisphere countries had bought all the vaccines in the world, and they were hogging them. And they didn't want to release them at the time when we needed them most. And we felt like we were begging. And at times it felt like they would just be droppings from the table, that yes, we will give you that and that. And let me tell you something that generated a lot of resentment. we resented that, and it got worse when we said we want to manufacture our own vaccines. And when we went to the WTO, there was a lot of resistance, enormous resistance. And we kept saying, what is more important, life or profits by your big pharmaceutical companies? And that too, I must tell you now, generated and deepened that disappointment and resentment on our part, because we felt like life in the Northern Hemisphere is much more important than life in the global South. And these are issues that need to be addressed. And I'm glad that we are all seated here like this, because we've got to get to the heart of these matters and address them. Now I come to promises that have been made. And Chancellor Scholz was saying, we've got to walk the talk. Yes, we want to see the talk being walked. President Sassou Nguesso yesterday said at the dinner, $100 billion was promised per year. And he was saying, I've never seen that. And many of us will testify that that $100 billion has never really been made available. And this should stand out as something that needs to be addressed. Because sometimes we sit at conferences like this and say, yes, we'll make this available, and we believe you. We believe you, but now the tire must hit the tar. We must now see action flowing from that. Now, I want to then talk about something very practical. President Sassou Nguesso raised it yesterday. He said he would be happy if flowing from this summit, we do something very practical on the infrastructure side. Having said that 600 million people in Africa do not have electricity, and yet we've got all the resources to generate electricity, particularly the mighty Congo River, and that there have been plans to build a number of power stations that will generate, in my calculation, up to 70,000 megawatts. And he said, and I want to speak in support of this proposal, that to prove that these summits are not summits where we just talk, flowing from the Paris COP as well as others, let us now put money on the table and collectively say we are going to...
Wewe ni president of South Africa. Sisikii mtu yoyote akimsupport.
We need the media to support this agenda. But I must also say that the best integration...
Sijasikia mtu yoyote akiongea juu yake kwa TikTok, kwa YouTube. Na ameongea fresh point. Na kuna hii president mmoja pia anaita Kagame. Anaita Kagame. Sijasikia mwingine akisupport. Alafu wengine wanakuja tu lecture about Ruto. Sisi Kenya tunyamazi bwana. Lazima tuwaambie ukweli about Ruto. Kama mjui kuja Kenya mjue. Usilete ufala zenyu hapa. Usilete ufala yenyu hapa. Usilete ufala yenyu hapa.
Zambia.
Haya, sikia president wa Zambia.
It will deliver to other debtor countries because Zambia was more or less used like a guinea pig, and we are now in this situation, and we hope that the lessons of that process can be learned correctly and be applied to the other processes that will commence starting, I believe, following this summit. And obviously, I do appreciate that we have other stakeholders that are here. So thank you very much. Let me be abusive a little bit. President Macron, and start by doing what is necessary on behalf of our people of Zambia, to thank greatly the achievement that was scored yesterday. One of the deliverables for this summit, and President Macron is aware, I came down here and requested that obviously also the President of China, that we should ensure that by the time this summit takes place, we'll have delivered the Zambia debt restructuring project. And as at yesterday, this is one of the deliverables at this summit. Thank you to China. Thank you to France for chairing the G20 framework. Thank you to South Africa for being the deputy chair for this process, and also to all of the countries that in one way or another supported this process to reach the conclusion it did yesterday, and the benefit it will deliver to other debtor countries, because Zambia was more or less used like a guinea pig, and we are now in this situation, and we hope that the lessons of that process can be learned and learned correctly and be applied to the other processes that will commence starting, I believe, following this summit. I must give special thank you to the US government for their support, European Union for their support. Indeed, most of us as debtor countries also were speaking to each other, learning from each other. Thank you very much. Let me move quickly to the issue of, I can't forget creditors. Thank you so much to the creditors, all of you, diversified as you are. Obviously, some are large, some are smaller, but without your cooperation, this was not going to be possible. But I must also say thank you to the people of Zambia for their patience. We took this project as one of our responsibilities before we formed government as an opposition party, that debt restructuring was a critical deliverable for us. And the people of Zambia were very patient, extremely patient, pain on the other side because the structural adjustment, the structural processes. And if there's one lesson that I want in expenditure controls, I dare say habits of corruption are enjoyed by many in our countries. And when you put reforms, you confront them as well. But it's important to be intentional as leaders and then deliver that to our communities. They will go through the pain, but they will support you, as Zambians have done that. Thank you very much to the people of Zambia. Let me put context to this. Poverty, climate change. We have already argued that these are intertwined. There's no question about it. Let me draw the first aspect of the connection. Even before we talk about financing, new financing, more financing, when countries are not growing economically, you cannot expect a poor person to carry an additional burden. That is necessary to drive growth, to drive development. So poverty actually exacerbates the climate change mitigation measures, I argue. And it's very clear. If you are asking your poor people to switch energy sources, can they afford from charcoal to clean energy? They're already stressed. So we need to find mechanisms to support the poor in our countries, less privileged. I heard this word called poverty, the poor, but the less privileged, to be able to come through to support the changes that are required to mitigate climate change negative effects. I think that's very, very important. It's also true to say climate change on the flip side has imposed new obligations on the less privileged. For example, the farmer you saw, the farmer you went to visit, Secretary Yellen, Treasury Secretary Yellen, before they could on 1 hectare produce, 2 hectares produce enough for themselves and an excess for sale. But climate change measures have made it one season, the same rain season, one part of it is a drought. When the rain comes, it's a flood. One season. What chance does that farmer have? They absolutely don't have. So as we talk about climate change mitigations, financing, support, technology, farming methods, issues of genetics in agriculture, early maturing varieties, I'm just giving an example. Context are important to consider. So it's not just laying the resource envelope on the table. It is digging inside that envelope. How do we apply that envelope in order to take care of the challenges that have arisen from climate change? And therefore the investments being directed in those specific areas that will produce results that will assist the less privileged to first produce food for themselves, to also produce excess for revenue to look after their households. But also it's important to look at water harvesting as an area of investment, to look at irrigation. Chairman Chancellor, the technology comes in and it's all there, it's available around the world. It's a question of pulling it together and targeting it. Let me also indicate here one of the lessons of our debt restructuring that is applicable to poverty reduction, to climate change, is the issue around speed at which we do things. G20 framework, when we took office 21 months ago, this discussion was already in train. Now we've been in office 21 months. Yes, we're very pleased that it happened yesterday. But for the countries that are coming after us, there's need to expedite the process. For us as a global community to mobilize resources, yes, but these resources must be invested to help grow the economies of the less developed countries. Very important, because by doing that we are creating capacity in those economies to mitigate against climate change and obviously poverty reduction. So value addition, not just with the electric vehicle industry that is coming through, huge industry. It is important, President Macron, that we look at deliberately investing in extraction, critical minerals, for example, in value adding these minerals in country. Obviously that will help the growth side of the GDP, create jobs, business opportunities for the transactional chain in there, if I may call it that. So I think this must be deliberate as well. Rather than generic discussions, we must dive deep into the envelope and begin to say, these are requirements, these are needs, these are minimum.
Sasa hao ndo Maafrika president waliongea. Wameongea maneno nyingi, maneno kubwa kubwa, maneno bigi bigi. Wanataka ikuwe the same time issue zote. Kila kitu wanataka kuweka pamoja iende. So ama president sijasikia wakisifiwa. President wa South Africa sijasikia mtu akimsifu kwa TikTok, kwa YouTube. President wa Zanzibar, Zimbabwe, Zambia. President wa Zimbabwe, Zambia ameongea, hakuna mtu amesifu kwa YouTube na TikTok. Huyu madam anaitwa Madam Mia Amuro hajasifiwa. So kitu nasikia tu ni Ruto. Kuja chukue Ruto uende nayo. Like the video, share the video, subscribe the channel.